morning, everyone. And a special thank you to our sponsors. We really couldn't do it without you, not just this event, but your support of the journalism that we produce every day. So we are so appreciative. And let's start with, is there anyone that did not go to Colby?
We've actually bought out all the seats.
Yeah.
Go hometown crowd.
It's quite impressive. A fact that we just realized is of all the Like a Boss guests, we have the highest number that have gone to Colby. So Deanna Sherman, Mike Vale, Sarah Burns, so that will be a new criteria for getting in the seat. So in 2013, the Morning Sentinel in Waterville reported David Greene was named the 20th president of Colby. And I quote, "Hailed as an innovative leader and champion of the liberal arts, he is an ideal person to usher Colby into its third century. Bold, ambitious, strategic, a team builder with terrific energy." So let's see if all of that's true. Welcome to my guest, David Greene, president of Colby College. And as we do, we're going to start going the Wayback Machine about where you grew up.
All right. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I'm going to just tell you it's so great to be in this little rock and roll venue.
Right.
So when you come on the stage, it says red Solo cups only beyond this point. Literally, when you're... So, we're keeping it classy today.
Yes.
Up here. So, I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, which, do you know Worcester?
Yes.
Anybody? It's like a big Waterville, is exactly what it is. It's so much like it in so many different ways. Culturally, they're kind of college towns that don't really feel like college towns in some way, and they could do better because their colleges and universities haven't been fully engaged in the city in the way that they should have been over time. But it was really a great place to grow up in reality, just like Waterville is an amazing place to grow up. When we moved from Chicago, my kids went to school in the Waterville Public Schools, and they had come from a school at the laboratory schools at the University of Chicago, which is quite different from Waterville Junior High and Waterville Senior High School. And they were suddenly in this environment where, before at lab schools, it's pretty free. There are no bells. People kind of walk around. They do their thing. It's kind of this mutual respect kind of a vibe. And they get there, and all of a sudden there are bells. You can't stand up in the cafeteria. And they're like, where do these prison rules come from? And I'm like, welcome to my life. That's how I went to school the entire time. That's what it's like. But it's been an amazing, Waterville's an amazing place. And in Worcester, which is really starting to come back right now in a lot of exciting ways. It was a city that was largely forgotten for about 60 years and is now starting to see a resurgence. So for me, seeing Colby actually in Waterville partnering and seeing a resurgence there's a nice synergy to where I came from and where I am right now. And
also your family was a big influence in the road that you chose to go into higher education. So talk about those family dinners and what was happening.
Well, I was one of 7 children. The first 5 of us were born in 5 years, which is an odd and cruel thing. As my mother says, she doesn't even remember the 1960s. Like that is gone, And then I was the 5th, and then I have 2 younger brothers who came a little bit after that. So it was kind of a handful. Both of my parents were educators. My mother taught kindergarten. My father taught high school. And then my father went back to school. I actually remember being in the audience when he got his doctorate at Boston University later on and seeing him in this red robe. It was quite a moment. And then he became a college professor and ultimately became a university president over time. And watching that was, for me, I think, a really kind of an important lesson in life, seeing how that happened. But they worked extraordinarily hard, not just in raising us, in challenging us in all kinds of ways, but my father often held 3 jobs at a time. My grandmother took the bus to be with us each day to watch us. It was just sort of part of our life. But one of the things that really was sacrosanct in our family was Sunday dinners and sitting down in the afternoon, and no matter where we were out playing or doing whatever we were doing, we all came back together on Sunday afternoon and had a kind of proper dinner on Sundays. But they were real conversations at those dinners. My mother corrected our grammar constantly, especially my brothers. I won't say which one, but, constantly she'd be on them, making sure how we spoke about things. And they would we'd always have kind of issues that we talked about. They weren't just, let's talk about the Patriots, which then no one wanted to talk about the Patriots. But it was really about, it was often about issues. My parents were very concerned about social justice issues, about equality issues, about things that were happening in the city. My father, in fact, ran for the school committee and became a member of the school committee and was very involved civically. So when I see some of the things that matter to me now, I know that they have echoes to that part of my life.
And academically, so you're in high school. You have to make a decision on what you're doing. Talk about that path.
Yeah, I was when I was in high school. I was my sophomore year in high school, and like a lot of kids at that age, I was playing sports. Loved to play sports, and so it was approaching baseball season, which was my favorite sport, and maybe the only one that I was reasonably good at. So I was looking forward to playing that year, and a teacher had kind of tapped me on the shoulder, my English teacher at that time, and said, I want you to think about a possibility that there's a job opening with the Massachusetts Department of Education, and it's every day after school, and it's working it was the late 1970s at the time, and school systems were really thinking about students' rights and responsibilities and how they can actually deal with kind of changing laws and everything that was happening in the schools at that time. And they wanted a student to kind of run the center of other students and working with the Department of Education staff to go out and be helping to train teachers, counselors, other students around a whole set of issues. And she said, I think you'd be really good at this. And I'm thinking, but I got to play baseball. And she said to me, do you think you got to play professional baseball? I'm like, I'm not sure I got to make the team, actually. But I might, I might. And so I thought it was a good moment to actually think about trade-offs in life. And I took that job, and it actually, I think, there are all these moments in your life that can kind of send you in one direction or another. And I think in some ways that was one of them for me. For the next 3 years, I worked every day after school. I traveled around the state of Massachusetts and around other places, going out into schools, helping to train teachers and counselors and others. And I'm a 16-year-old kid doing this. So I think it just gave me a very different kind of sense of myself and the possibilities of things, and a kind of deep immersion in issues around policy and legislation, and sort of going up in in front of the sort of Massachusetts State Board of Education. I would be there to testify in front of them on things and it was just a kind of a moment in life, like, wow, there are things that are possible. So I sometimes, when I think it's true for all of us, but I try to do that now, and I know that you all surely do too, but when you see people who have potential and you kind of just give them that tap on the shoulder at the right moment and say, maybe here's a way forward for you. When people walk through that door that you've opened for them, it can change their lives, and that's what happened for me.
And then your own education. So, my dear, you have a lot of degrees. So you went to Hamilton undergrad, and then...
That's a prerequisite to be a college president, by the way.
I would think, right?
Yeah.
Do you have enough? Do you have enough?
No, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write any more papers, take any more exams.
So of everything that you learned, what are the things that so you have 2 masters from Harvard, a doctorate from Harvard,
yeah.
and your time at Hamilton. What's the thing that you use every day? Oh.
Boy, there's a lot. I think, in graduate school, I did a lot of work in econometrics and in looking at different types of research methodology. And for me, the kind of power of data analysis, asking questions in really sophisticated ways, and using powerful tools to answer questions is something that is sort of part of my life every day. Mm-hmm. The way that you query data, the way that you ask questions, the way that you dig deep into text. Those things are probably more important to me than kind of the substance of things that I learned. It's just a kind of a way of thinking, a way of approaching problems on a day-to-day basis, and having the confidence to be able to do that. I think that's probably made a bigger difference for me than anything else. And
your first job, well, actually, no, let's go back a little bit to what was your first job?
Well,
before you went into...
I don't know if this counts, but when we used to grow rhubarb in our yard. Anybody? And so we would sort of cut that and sell it door to door.
Wow.
like a nickel for like a couple of stalks of rhubarb. It turns out people don't really like rhubarb.
You got to have the strawberries with it.
Maybe you got to have the
'cause alone
strawberries. It's like this kind of sour,
Yeah.
it's like dental floss. And so but it's important, you learn a lot about rejection in
Yeah.
that. So for me, it was a useful kind of a thing to do. And then my brothers and I were all kind of paper boys. So
Worcester Telegram?
Worcester Telegram and Gazette. So
Nice.
this thing about newspapers, back when newspapers were delivered twice a day by punks like me.
We're coming back.
We're
coming back.
I know.
Get ready.
I'm ready. But that was that was such a, getting up in the morning early. I was the youngest of the three brothers who were sort of delivering the paper, so I often got the bad shift, have to get up early in the morning. The afternoon one's much more appealing, right, to go out. But you have to kind of deal with people every day. You have to go pick up your money from folks, right? Knock on their doors, scary people, and ask them for their money. And I'll just tell you this: so at the time, the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, the guy who was in charge of the kind of the paper carriers was a guy named Mr. Paradise. And Mr. Paradise did not live up to his name. I will tell you, he was the grungiest character. I hope he's not here. I don't think so, but.
He works for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't miss him because, where his teeth were missing on the bottom is just where the cigar fit in, right? No matter any time of day, the cigar fit right in there and had that I've never seen him without the cigar. And he'd come and he'd be like, well, where's, the $12.50 for the week? And, you'd kind of shake out the money for him and he'd give you something back. But that, too, was, I think, a good experience.
Yeah, it is, for sure. Okay, so Smith, Brown, then the University of Chicago. I don't mean to fast forward through those important institutions, but we really need to get...
Second-rate places.
Yeah,
Let's get to the good ones.
We need to get you to Colby.
I'm with you.
All right, so there you are doing great things at the University of Chicago. How does the Colby opportunity come up?
Through a phone call. As most of these things do, it's interesting. Different industries work in different ways. For college presidents, at the kind of top places, there are a handful of kind of search consultants who kind of rule the whole thing. They control most of the searches. I knew all of them because I'd hired them for different things before. They would call for different jobs and say, how about this presidency? How about this? And most of them just were not very interesting to me. The Colby one got my attention, I'll have to say. I knew Colby, and I knew what an extraordinary place it was. But I also knew the liberal arts, and I knew how important it was for these great colleges, which are really distinctly American institutions, right? They don't exist elsewhere in the world in any significant way. They were created here, and they have existed here for now hundreds of years. Making sure that these places could thrive, that felt like something that was really important to me. And then the chair of the board at the time, who was Bob Diamond, who used to be the CEO of Barclays Bank, called me up. And it's a true story. Bob calls me up. I've never met him before. He says, David, I want to tell you, I want you in this search. You're my guy. I'm like, how many times have you said that on the phone today? I'm like, how many people did you call and just say that to? And I still like it, I'm totally flattered by it. And even though I know this is like your 20th call, but he was a good recruiter. And so then that was really the start of the process. And then there's a kind of, there's a very kind of structured interview process for these presidencies, because colleges are places where there's such shared power and authority, right? That there's lots of stakeholders, lots of people who are involved in things. And so it's not like a couple people who are kind of saying, okay, that's the person, let's bring them in. Do you want the job? You're hired. It's more of, you're kind of running the gauntlet for some months, meeting with many different people and talking to them.
And how did you need to convince your family? Because you had three teenage kids at the time, right? So,
my wife's Carolyn's here right now,
yeah.
So we should ask her. No, we did not. I have to say, because Colby was such clearly an amazing place, and the thought of being in Maine was really attractive. Apparently it's different from Chicago, so no one told us that. But I love this state. I'd had a connection to Maine long before Carolyn and I had come here with the kids from very early on. In fact, my daughter Nora, who now goes to Bowdoin.
And the one
we're going to have
voting
to ask
grad.
him
Yeah,
to leave.
yes.
But
Security.
she actually learned to swim in a gunkwit, in this little pool. And so for us, the idea of being in New England, and I'm a New Englander, and although Carolyn's she's from the Bay Area out in California, we met in graduate school, and New England is very much her adopted home. So being back here, being in Maine was a really attractive part of this. So the combination of Colby and Maine made things really exciting for us.
And from the time they announced your appointment, you had 9 months until the job started. So how did you prepare? That
was such a frustrating 9 months, because it's actually extremely helpful. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to get going, right? I got to I want to get in there. But it's actually gave me an opportunity to learn an enormous amount about Colby over that period of time, so that when I came in on July 1st of 2014, I knew a lot about the place. I had met a lot of people. I had been all around the country meeting Colby alums. I had read about the history of Colby. I had been to campus many different times. That gave me a huge leg up as opposed to just kind of walking into the door. And so in the end, as frustrating as I found it, I also wanted to make the best use of that time and to really kind of understand that. And it ended up, for me at least, being hugely powerful in terms of being able to say, all right, now when I get here, we've got to lay the land. Let's really start to put a plan in place and move things forward.
So it's become incredibly competitive to get into Colby. So what are some of the statistics on the number of applications versus acceptances?
Well, when I came in, we had about 5,000 applications for admission, and it had been kind of steady-ish for some years. We have, this year we have 13,584 for about 550 spots. So you can do the math on that. It's not, I think...
I actually can't do the math
I can't
on
either. Okay, well, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So it's we will, this year, we'll admit about 10% of the students who apply to Colby, and they are extraordinary. I mean, we're trying to grow Colby, actually, because we have far more students we'd like to have than we have room for at the moment, so we're kind of expanding the size of it a little bit. But these students are so incredible. And one of the things I love about it is that Colby has long had a commitment to students from Maine, and that's still very much true. About 10% of our students are from Maine, and maintaining that while the demographics are running against us, right? The number of high school graduates in Maine is shrinking significantly. But we work hard at it. We actually, over a 2-day period this fall, our admissions officers went to every single high school in Maine. They just went out, blanketed every school, and they really help students there thinking not just about whether Colby is the right place for them, but how do you deal with financial aid? How do you deal with all of the different things that will help you go to the next level in your education? So we have a real strong commitment to Maine. That said, when you look at where our students are coming from, right now, California is the place that has the second most applicants coming to Colby at any time. For example, it used to be much more Northeast heavy, but now you look, Texas is number 6, California is number 2. It's really changing, and we have to be in those areas because when you look at where the growth is in this country and where people are graduating from high school, the Northeast is shrinking, the South, the West still growing. So you really need to be able to be in those different markets if you're going to be successful.
And there's so much talk about how to afford college, but I know Colby has a unique approach to that.
Well, I think this issue is really important because people talk about the cost of education, and rightly so. It's expensive. So a year at Colby is about $70,000 a year. It's a lot of money. But when you look at what we've done to be able to make it affordable, it's really, I think it's pretty impressive. So at Colby right now, if you come to Colby and you have an income of $60,000 or less for a family income, you come with zero family contribution, no loan, zero family contribution, nothing for you to be able to come to Colby. That is far more than half the state of Maine, right? The median income in the state of Maine is what, $50-something thousand? Nationally, it's $60,000, just over $60,000. So half the country can afford to send their will send their kids to Colby for zero from the family contribution. And then what we added this year, we had a great gift that allowed us to create something that we call the Fair Shot Fund. And it's really about having a fair shot in life. And this is really thinking about these families that are middle-income families that just feel totally squeezed out by the expense of a private education. And so what we've done is say up to $150,000 income, no more than $15,000 for parents to be able to contribute to their kids' education at Colby. For a $70,000 a year education, $15,000. That's room and board, that's tuition, that's everything. That's less than the state universities, which on average are about $22,000. And that, by the way, brings you up to about 87% of the country now can send their children to Colby for $15,000 or less. So we're working very hard on this issue of affordability and making sure that students can come to Colby, no matter their financial background. If they're talented, they're hardworking, they're deserving, they're going to make the most of the kind of education that we can provide, we want to make sure that we're opening the door to them.
Now, one of the things, let's transition to this relationship between Colby and Waterville, which has a long history. Do you want to dial it back? What was it? Is it 100 or 200 years?
Well, yeah, it really is kind of an extraordinary history. I mean, I think Colby was founded in 1813, right back when Maine was still part of Massachusetts, in fact.
Oh,
and so I know.
Those days.
So they saw the light,
yeah.
I guess, but it's kind of an extraordinary story. You think about it was a Baptist institution, right? And so you mentioned I was at Brown. It actually has ties to that because Brown was the first Baptist college in the country, and they wanted another one. And they basically were like, we're sending a group up north where there's growth up north, and literally sent people to kind of come up and explore and find a spot. They came up the Kennebec River and sort of put a stake in the ground in Waterville, which is sort of a bustling and growing commercial area. There was shipbuilding, there were other things going on at the time. Then, of course, it became a mill town in important ways. So Colby kind of started there in 1813, but by 1929, so think about 1929, right? The eve of the Great Depression at that time, Colby had a study done that said their campus, they'd outgrown their campus, and the infrastructure in the campus was starting to crumble. It was kind of hemmed in between the Kennebec River and the train tracks in Waterville, and they would have to move. If they were going to continue to grow, they'd have to move. And so they looked and said, maybe we'll move out of Waterville. But the people of Waterville actually got together, raised $107,000, which was no small sum at the time, and they bought land on the top of Mayflower Hill in Waterville, and they deeded that land to Colby College at the time. Sort of an extraordinary moment for a community to come together in that way. And then Colby, over the next 3 decades, built out this picture postcard of a campus that's there right now. I mean, literally, they spent every dime. Whenever they could raise money for another truckload of bricks, they would bring that up, build this campus bit by bit over 30 years until you see this beautiful campus that exists there now. It totally changed the fate of Colby. Having this incredible campus being there, Colby took off. When you look at the middle part of the 20th century to now, it really became one of the great liberal arts colleges in the country over that time. At the same time, Waterville, of course, has had a tougher road. In the 1970s, by the 1970s, the mills, textile mills, paper mills start pulling out. The downtown starts to hollow out over time. So the fate in some ways had changed. So much of what we're doing right now, I think of as just being an obligation that we have to the city that partnered with us and picked Colby up when Colby needed it most. And Waterville needs it now. And it's our turn to be able to do some things and to invest in the city in really significant ways and to make sure that this is a thriving city. We have a partnership with the city of Waterville that goes back for over 200 years. And every time we ignore that or we take that for granted, it's to our shared peril. So for me, that combination of being together in Waterville with Colby is so important. And our investments are really designed around this idea that we are in this together and we both have a future together in all of this. So that's the way that we think about this. It really is tied very deeply to our history.
So talk about your partnership with the city and how you figured out together what was needed.
Well, we started, we actually I talked to the Herald Foundation, and I said, would you provide us with some funds for a planning grant if we would work with the city? And they said, we would. And I'd worked with some people in Chicago who had great urban planners. And so I brought them out. They're actually from New York, but they came up. And, usually we don't like people from away. But these were really talented, smart people. And I knew that they would, help us think together about what was possible. And so we put together a group of about 20, 25 people, the mayor, civic leaders, business leaders, folks who had long, deep histories in Waterville. And we met over a 6-month period. And we looked at the downtown area, which had really fallen on hard times. And my sense is that any great city has a strong core. You really have to have a vibrant core. When that has gone, right, when that's no longer there, it just kind of echoes out throughout the entire city. So bringing back what once had been a really bustling, vibrant downtown became a real priority for us. So we worked together to kind of reimagine what that would look like. And we set a planning framework around a set of priorities around building the residential density downtown. People no longer live there. So how do we start to bring the residential density back? How do we bring new businesses in? How do we support the businesses that are already here? What would that look like? And we came to a real shared understanding of that. And ultimately, the city council approved the planning framework and said this is a way that we will go forward as a city, which was a sort of great moment in all of this. And then from then on, we've really just been investing in working together to attract new businesses, to put new buildings. We put 200 students downtown this year for the first time in an amazing building that Bill and Joan Alfond helped us put together. And it really is for these students all living right on Main Street, all of them engaged in civic activities as part of their program. Their group of faculty who live there, students who live there, totally changed the energy of downtown once you put 200 students there. And the students love it. And the folks who are benefiting from having these students work in their nonprofit organizations, working in the schools, they love having these students who are there, so bright, so eager to help. So that's really starting to work. We've got a hotel that's in the works right now. It's going to be beautiful. An art center that's going to go downtown. We've got a new technology center downtown. And the exciting part is people from all over are now investing in Waterville, where no property transactions had happened for decades. Now we've got 29 buildings or so that have changed hands over the last several years where people are starting to invest in there. So it's really starting to take hold.
And it's really highly desired to live downtown in the dorm, right? So the students have to apply.
They do.
And then give back to the community?
Yeah, so this is our first year. We had far more students than we could accommodate applying. And I think for next year, and many of them were nervous, like, well, how will this work? It feels very different. But it's worked beautifully. So this year, I think it will be the number one place for people to want to live.
Now, let's talk about bringing employers to Waterville. So Peter Del Greco of Main & Company told me the story that you literally camped out in the office of the CGI Group CEO to get him to bring jobs to Maine. So how long were you actually camped out there? Did you have
just 3
LL
days,
Bean
only
apparel?
3 days. It's kind of like, it was kind of like getting a new Apple phone or something. So you've got to stand out there. But no, it was really that Peter and his team were so helpful on this. And it started, actually, I had lunch with Governor LePage, and we were, of course, he had been the mayor of Waterville.
Yep.
So he was deeply interested in what was going on there. And we were talking about things, and he said to me, I heard about this company that, is looking around and may look at Maine or other places. And I talked to Peter about it, who knew about this, and they had looked in Bangor and they were looking at other places. They were also looking in Pittsburgh, and this is a Massachusetts-based company that does software development and software consulting. They were going to put 200 jobs somewhere. So I did go down there. I called first. It's not like
You didn't cold call it.
I didn't know. They were like, what? I said, just hear me out a little bit. So I went down there and I kind of laid out, hey, this is what we're trying to do. You need to come take a look at Waterville. And they said, it doesn't really look like it fits with what we're doing. We're pretty set on where we are. And it was true. I sort of wouldn't take no for an answer from them. I just kept saying, no, you really need to take a look at this. And they did, right, Peter? They actually came and they checked it out and they said, no, this really isn't for us. I'm like, that was the wrong answer. And I'm like, you've got to imagine what this Main Street's like, because we're going to take this old turn-of-the-century bank building, right, the old Waterville Savings Bank, and we're going to turn this into a technology hub for you. And what we did, which was different from what any other city was doing, was we said we would do that. We put a $5.5 million investment into this building and took an old bank building that nobody had been in for decades and made it into a technology hub. Thanks to the Herald Foundation, which gave them an extraordinary training grant that allowed them to be able to train people for the jobs that were there. We gave them free build-out to be able to move there. So we created a set of incentives for them, private incentives to help a company move to Waterville for 200 jobs. It just felt to me like that was so important for what we were trying to do. And it worked. And that company got bought out. They're now bought out by a company, CGI, which is a $10 billion a year company built that resides in Montreal. But they are committed to now 200, and they'd like to grow that to 300 to 500 jobs over time, which would just make a huge difference. That to me is like, that's starting to replace a mill when you do that.
Well, Waterville is really extraordinary. We own the Morning Sentinel down there, so we've been reporting on the revitalization, and the most read story on our website on Monday was the opening of the new Greek restaurant.
Yes, there you go.
So, and then I also heard over the weekend it was an hour-and-a-half wait. So people are ready. They want to get out. They want to do things. They
Time to
want to have
invest in Waterville, right?
Exactly.
I know there are folks in here who can do that.
You heard it here. That's right. That's right. So let's shift to your leadership principles and talk about your management style and your team. So what are your leadership principles?
Well, I'm a little worried about that because there are people here who work with me, and so they may think, that's not true. Yeah. There's certain things that are really important to me as a leader. One of them is I'm a kind of a roll your sleeves up type of person. I believe in actually doing the work and leading by example on a lot of these things. And knowing my business inside out, it's really important for me to know every area and to kind of know it in a way that when I'm working with the vice presidents or others, that I know it, is, I may not know it as well as them, but I try to know it as closely as well as they do, so that I want them to have a total, real freedom in what they do, but I also want to be engaged in the work in meaningful ways with all of them. So that's one of them. Another one for me is, I care a lot about the folks who work with me, and I care about, their path and what they're trying to do in their lives and who they are as people and what that's like. So really trying to understand who they are, what matters to them, and how to build a great team and have people feel like Colby can be a place where they can really make a difference. I ask a lot of them. So that's, we work extremely hard. And I tell people who come to work with us, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked. The bar's going to be set higher for you than you've ever expected in your lives. But to do that, I really need to know them and support them. So if they're interested in growing and changing, and I can help them in various ways by giving them different professional opportunities, I really want to be able to do that in my work. And the last thing I'd say, there are a number of these things that that's really important to us, is we say, one of our principles at our work is begin with yes. That don't be the place that starts with no on everything. Imagine the possibility when someone comes to you with an idea, when somebody comes to you with something, start with yes. And I'll have to tell you, I learned that as a waiter, okay? I worked at Legal Seafoods for a while, do you know?
Yeah.
And so Legal Seafoods had certain rules, and they had rules like you can't touch your face when you're on the floor when you're a waiter. And that's actually a useful thing, right? That people are watching you, and you should actually, another thing, you couldn't say no, right? Which is hard when you're a waiter. Do you have skim milk? And you'd be like, we have 2% milk, would that be okay? So you have to learn to sort of speak in a very different way in how you respond to people. And that in itself is kind of and by the way, you can never use the word fishy. So if someone says, how's that blue fish taste? Oh, it's really fishy. Fish is not a pejorative term, right? So But that was really, but I think we try that all the time now, is we just say, see the good in things first. You may get to know, but begin with the idea that there's something good that somebody's bringing to you, as opposed to, no, I need to be a gatekeeper. I need to stop that from happening.
I think that's like the Like a Boss takeaway from today. Begin with yes. So I just want to thank you. Even before we finish, we already have our takeaway,
All right.
which is very, very important. You also told me you write your own stuff. I don't write my own memos.
Yeah.
But you do.
I
That's
do,
impressive.
I do write, although Ruth Jackson is here as our Vice President for Communications, and she and I partner on writing a lot of different things together, but I do write, I spend a lot of time writing.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, it's important, but I think, for me, the other piece, I would just say that's so important to me is around kind of authenticity in leadership, being true to who you are as a leader. And that was really important to me when I came to Colby. Colby's a small community, place where people really know you and where everybody can sniff out a phony, right? And I just thought to myself when I came here, I'm going to be myself in all of this, for good or for worse. I'm going to be myself. And writing to me is one of the ways that I express myself. Mm-hmm. It's the way that I'm able to talk about the things that I care about in a way that, is true to who I am. And so there are lots of different ways that you have to communicate, but writing is one of them. But it all goes back to me, to this kind of sense of authenticity and this sense of the values and the principles and the things that drive me and that comport with those values and principles of our institution. And finding that mix is so important in life. And when you can do that and then really be kind of authentic, I just find it's like a way to enjoy life too, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being, have the facade up all the time, that's tough. Mm-hmm. But when you can do it in a way that you're real and you're true and you're just actually enjoying yourself and your work, it feels entirely different.
Your team, did you acquire them? Did you build them? And what are the key roles of your leadership team?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix. We have folks who have been at Colby for a long time, like Ruth. But Ruth we promoted up because she had to vice president because she was so talented and ready to go.
And originally from Farmington.
And a true Mainer. And we've got another good Mainer. Where's Brian? Brian Clark, who's here, who's our vice president for planning. Brian is also, he's from Maine, kind of. He's from Cape Elizabeth. And I could tell you, it don't count in Waterville. So, but Brian actually worked with me at the University of Chicago, and he was not hard to convince him to come back to Maine. I'll have to say his wife's also from Maine, so that was pretty easy. There are folks who have been at Colby for 30, 40 years who are on our kind of senior team. So like our CFO, Doug Turp, who's a Colby alum and has been there for a long period of time. And then there are people who are really brand new who've come in. So we have, a vice president for communications, vice president for advancement, which is sort of fundraising and alumni engagement. We have folks who are kind of the provost, who's the sort of chief academic officer, who was a longtime Colby faculty member who's in that role. So it's a real mix. I try to find people, we've got a very diverse senior team. I think if you put our team up against any team at a college that's like ours, you would see our leadership team is, I think, by far the most diverse, racially, ethnically, first-gen students, gender balance, everything, where people have come from, their backgrounds, their experiences. I want a group that really is going to challenge one another and where we're going to have really rich discussions and people are going to bring their own experiences and their own perspectives into that, into our room every single day. And that's important to us. And that so far has worked extremely well. By the way, people told me you can never recruit great people up to Maine, to Waterville, Maine. Total lie. Total lie. We have extraordinary people who have come to work with us at Colby. So I just don't believe that at all.
Yeah, none of us believe that.
Right?
It's a great place.
Yeah. No, just
everywhere.
that myth around, you can't recruit people here.
Yeah.
Absolute lie.
So in terms of the strategic plan for Colby, how far out does it go, and is it your team that puts it together?
Yeah, it's done, like everything, when you work at a college or university, we actually believe in shared governance, that there really is a sense that lots of people have a stake in the institution. So when we do planning, it involves folks on campus. The faculty are deeply engaged in planning. Students are deeply engaged in planning. Staff, the senior administration, but it's also true of our great board of trustees, of our other alumni volunteers. You look around, when we put a plan together, it really has been a group effort that comes together. We put together a plan a few years ago. We call it the Eminent Colby Plan. The idea is really thinking about Colby as a truly eminent place over time, so securing its place among the top institutions in the world, and seeing how we can do that. And it's a plan that lasts out, it's a 10, 15, 20-year plan to really be able to move these things forward. A lot of that happens, right? So we're not a kind of quarter by quarter place, like, when you're running a bank and you sit there and you say, wow, what are quarterly results like? We do some of that, but we don't live quarter by quarter. We've been around for a couple hundred years. We want to be around for a couple hundred more. And we think the best thinking comes when there are lots of people in the room talking about it. At the same time, one of the criticisms of higher education is that things happen at a glacial pace, right? One of the things they say about, your academic program changes, one funeral at a time, people say in colleges and universities. That's
terrible.
That is,
yeah.
And not true.
Yeah.
But I think that, we don't want to be that place either. We always want to be a place that's nimble, that's moving quickly, that has great governance and decision-making processes, but we want to do it that's also a way that really brings a lot of voices to the table. So when we put a plan together, it really is a kind of shared plan that we develop as a community.
Yeah, because you do have a lot of constituencies, right? You've got students, faculty, alum, prospective students. So how do you divide your time with those different groups?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of make sure I'm doing it in a really thoughtful way. I spend time thinking about how I allocate my time. It's one of the most important things I have is where I spend my time on a daily basis. So for me, making sure that on any given day, it may be skewed one way or another, but over a week, over a semester, over a year, I want to make sure that I'm really getting out with all different groups, that I'm spending time at student events and with students, that I'm with our faculty. It might be in our house, it might be at faculty talks, that I'm with alums, that I'm around the world seeing alums wherever they might be. So I try to do this in a kind of focused, structured way. But every day is different, and every year feels very different depending on the kind of priorities and where we are on things.
And you've said that right now your near-term horizon is to stay closer to Colby, right? Because more recently you were really on the road.
I've been on the road a lot, and I'd love to. That's my goal. I keep failing at it. There's because we're trying to raise a lot of money. Right now, we've launched what's the largest fundraising campaign ever for a liberal arts college in the country. So that's a tall order for Colby. I don't think anyone believed that Colby would be a place that could raise more money than any other liberal arts college, many of which have demonstrated capacity that goes beyond what we have. But we've raised more in the first few years than any other college has done of our kind. And so we're off to a good start on this. But it does mean a serious amount of work on the road and being able to go out and see people and talk about what's happening with Colby. The good news is I enjoy it. Meeting Colby alums is like not hard work, right? These are like extraordinary people. And hearing about their life and what's important to them is one of the great joys of this, because I learned I've been able to connect with people from so many different backgrounds and so many different places. And they love this institution and they want to do something important in the world. And if Colby can be a place that helps them do that, I want to make sure that we're there for that.
Who are the folks that have influenced you? Have you had mentors through your career?
I have. I've never... it's funny when sometimes you see young people today and they will ask, will you be my mentor? And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't even know, I would never have imagined asking anybody that, but there are certainly people who sort of shape my lives in really important ways over time. Professionally for sure. I spent before I came to Colby, I spent 20 some odd years working directly with presidents, some of the greatest university presidents, I think, in the country. And I learned a lot from them. Bob Zimmer was the president of the University of Chicago and is a really close friend of mine. We worked together for about a dozen years, and it was just such a really great partnership that I learned a lot from him. I'd like to think he learned something from me. I don't know if that's true or not. But he just, I think that, being engaged on a day-to-day basis, just sort of thinking together, is such a powerful part of the work. I think anytime you can do that with somebody who's kind of coming along, just be engaged in the thinking process together. That, to me, is the most powerful thing. But I learned so much from Bob, and some of that was just about, how to reach higher, that there is more that you can do, that our institutions can imagine themselves to be better, stronger, more than they are right now. This is a guy who shuns complacency in every single way. And I just, that for us was so important when we were at Chicago. We were going to be a different kind of place, and we were going to just go all in on it. And that, I really took that from him. But I also worked for 10 years with Ruth Simmons, who was the president of both Smith and Brown University. First African-American woman to lead a major college university in the country. An extraordinary background, sharecropper's daughter from Texas, came to Harvard, got her PhD, ended up at Princeton, came to Smith to be president. Extraordinary person. And one of, many things I learned from Ruth, who has this incredible grace, and smart, and can write. Ruth wrote her own stuff, right? I would write some things for Ruth, and then she would rewrite it, and it was so much better. It was so humbling to have that done on a day-to-day basis. But one of the things I really learned from her, too, is how her personal story informed the things that were important to her in her life and the kind of work that she was doing. And I've taken that with me because I just thought that was, it was so powerful to see how her work and her life were kind of integrated in really coherent ways. So there've been lots of different people in my life I've learned from, but those two, I know, I just owe such a debt of gratitude to both of them for what they've done for me.
Now, what's the best piece of advice that you give to people?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if I ever give good advice to people. One of the things I do say one of the things when students ask me about their going off into their careers and what's going to make a difference for them, I tell them sort of two things. I tell them, be the hardest worker in the room all the time. Get rid of the entitlement. Whatever that is, get rid of it. You don't deserve it, you don't own it, get rid of it, be the hardest working person. Everybody notices that. Everybody wants to be with the person who works harder than everybody else. And the other thing is, always be a great student. Always be learning. I spent years, I still do it. I spend all my time looking around, learning, observing, trying to be better, trying to understand things in a deeper way. And if you're really explicit about that and thinking about your life and everything that you're doing, who's the best student in the room all the time? Who's the one who's always watching, learning, developing, changing because of what they're seeing and what they're observing, what they're experiencing? You have to be that person. And if you do those two things, if you're always learning and you're working super hard, you're going to grow and develop and good things will happen.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice.
Yeah?
So thank you. So I think we're getting close to the question period, and we have a microphone. I just have a couple more, and then we'll open it up to the Colby alum.
Even a Bowdoin alum.
Yeah, if you had to write your own performance review,
Oh boy.
what are your key accomplishments, and what are your areas for development?
I think we set out to do something at Colby 4.5 years ago that was different from what other institutions are doing. We were going to be, we wanted to have an institution that was never afraid to lead, that wasn't afraid to be out front with its values, with its goals, with its ambitions, but with the quality of its programs, with its connection into the community and into the world. To think about the liberal arts as a place that was sort of deeply connected into the world, not a place that was sort of turned inward, but a place as a college that was turned outward. And that's important to us as we think about what we're doing in Waterville. We're the first liberal arts college to fund every student, to have every student be funded for an international experience beyond their study abroad. at Colby, for example, making sure that our students are truly citizens of the world in every way. You know, for us, thinking about the whole model of the liberal arts and how we can help students be launched into the world so that all of our students have research experiences, global experiences, internship experiences, that's really important to us in terms of what they're doing. When I look at the way that we're reimagining the arts and the sciences at Colby right now, we've had these extraordinary gifts that are all part of our plan about how we can think about the sciences. So I know Debbie Bronk is here from Bigelow Lab for Ocean Sciences, which is one of our great partners, and we're looking to expand that partnership, for example. And so for us, part of this is like, how do you do big science when you're at a small institution? And so much of that is being able to partner with places like Bigelow or with Jackson Labs, for example, or with Dana-Farber Institute, and where our students and faculty are working now all the time. That's so important for us. So on a lot of these measures and on things like throwing open our doors to the most talented students, I feel good about that. I feel like we've made some real progress on things that we're concerned about. And Colby, its position is changing, and I can feel that everywhere I go, and I can see it on all kinds of metrics. And I would just say, too, in what we're doing in Waterville, what's so exciting to me, so we are seeing extraordinary job growth in Waterville right now. The population has increased for the first time in decades, right? We have the same number. Now we're up to where we were in 1996 or 97 in terms of the population. After literally decades of decline, people are moving back into Waterville. That's a huge deal. Waterville last year was the hottest real estate market in the state of Maine. This year it's in the top 5. So it had never been in the top 20.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So seeing those kind of things happening, seeing people, their personal property values going up, which is really important to us over time, seeing homes being sold after people weren't able to sell them, I feel good about that, really starting to see that work take hold. So on those things, I feel good about.
I would give you exceeds expectations on those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wouldn't. We got to give that to my board chair.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things for me to work on all of this. I mean, I think I need to be a better communicator. Always, I just feel like the communication is such an essential part of the work that we do, and this is true for any leader, but it's true with in all different venues. It's true when you're in the public, but it's also true in your day-to-day work. And how do you communicate with your staff? How are you communicating with folks in a way that they can really understand? You have a real clear understanding of one another. And I feel like sometimes I speak in shorthand too much around things, and it can frustrate people because they're like, I know you want this, but I'm not sure how I'm supposed to get there and what that looks like. And I know I'm not good enough yet at kind of taking that moment and really kind of talking that through. So sometimes kind of moving too fast and rushing. So there's a lot of that I need to keep working on.
That's... Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty on that.
I've got others that I'm not going to tell you about.
That's probably, yeah. No, that's, yeah. Please come to the microphone if you have some questions. My final 2 questions for you, David, are what keeps you up at night?
I sleep pretty well. So, but the things I would say the thing I worry about, there's 2 things I probably worry the most about. One is really this issue around accessibility for our, for a Colby education and for all of our colleges. Are we really a place that's going to be affordable for these talented students, and are we doing enough there all the time to be able to reach them? That to me is a huge deal. It's so fundamental to our mission and what we're all about that once we lose that, I just think that we become irrelevant. And so that feels to me like one of the most important things. The other thing is when you have 2,018 to 22-year-olds living on your campus, sometimes when I am up at night, it's because I literally live on campus.
Yeah.
And when it's, the bass is booming a little bit, from the senior apartments and it's coming down to our house, that can keep us up. But that, the kind of, the safety when it's a volatile mix when you put 2,000 students together, many of whom are away for the first time in their lives, living with people who are, very different from them. and bringing them all together in a community and creating a community that really is fully inclusive, welcoming, safe, where people can do their best environment. That's super hard work, the kind of culture work that has to be done. And getting that right and making sure that people really respect the opportunity that's there and respect one another, that's tough, ongoing work. So I always worry about that because it's just, there's a lot at risk.
Yeah, for sure. And then describe your Maine. What are the things that you like to do, other than going to the new Greek restaurant?
Yeah, I haven't been able to get in yet.
Who can get in?
You know, it's funny that video that started says the air is different up here. You know, that's the way it begins. And I know how that happened because when we were talking to a creative group about creating some videos for us, it's one of the things, when I think about my Maine, that's actually one of the things that's sort of my Maine is, and my wife Carolyn said this for the first time. We got off a plane from Chicago when we were coming out in that first year, and she said, you know, the air is different here, isn't it? And I feel that. I was in New York this week. I got off the plane. I come in, and it's just, the air is different when you're in Maine. And that one of the things for me, when I think about my Maine, the first thing I think about is just breathing in this air. It's just so extraordinary. And if you go somewhere else, take a deep breath. You know, it's not the same. But that's true not just in the air. You know, it's in the water that I drink out of my faucet every day that tastes different. When I was in New York and I'm drinking out of the faucet, not quite the same. And New Yorkers love their water, but it's not the same as what I'm drinking from my Maine water. When I look at the sunrise that comes up over Mayflower Hill from my house every morning and the colors that are there, the colors in the skies are unbelievable. The sunsets in Maine are extraordinary. Do any of you know the painter Alex Katz, who's, you know, great American painter, right? And Alex has spent 50, 60 years every summer in Maine painting. And I've gotten to know Alex well, and I go out to his studio every year here, and I also go in New York in the winter, and he paints these incredible landscapes, these sort of abstract landscapes of Maine that capture the color of the sky here in a way that I've never seen anyone else capture. And oftentimes when I look out my window at home and the sun is setting, it's like looking at an Alex Katz painting. He's sort of taught me to look at the sky differently because I'm seeing it through his eyes as an artist, which is kind of one of the extraordinary things about Maine for me too, is meeting these incredibly talented people who have made Maine their home and kind of sharing this kind of identity with them is for me one of really the great parts of Maine.
We did not mention the art museum.
It's a pretty good one.
It's unbelievable,
right?
And it's free.
And it's free.
It's free. Yeah.
It's the best college art museum in the country. So if you haven't
Hands
been,
down.
I mean, it's just so extraordinary. So we had, you know, we haven't said this to anybody yet, but so I've got to go. I'm going to go this afternoon. I'm going to go in because we just had 2 new Rembrandts that came in this week.
Oh.
Of course we did. So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was trying to tell Sharon Corwin, who's the incredible director of the museum, we'd actually like some of those in the house. She's like, no, you don't get those. But it's just an incredible museum. I mean, I mentioned Alex Katz. We have over 800 works from Alex Katz in our museum, right? We have, how many whistlers do we have? Nearly 400 whistlers in our museum right now. You know, it's just unbelievable. We just, you know, last year, we got the incredible Villard suite from Picasso, you know, just an incredible piece. We've got the only Jackson Pollock in the state of Maine, right, that we just acquired recently. It's really a phenomenal museum, but here's one of the best parts about it that, you know, we probably don't talk enough about. The art is incredible. The collection in American art, thanks to Peter and Paula Lunder, who are just the most amazing people in the world, what they've done. I'll just say as an aside, one of the things that makes this state so incredible is the people like Peter and Paula, people like the Alphons, who care so deeply about this state that they are investing in it in just unbelievable ways, right? Completely transforming institutions and opportunities for people in this state. But one of the things I really love about our museum is every year we offer an opportunity for school children from across Maine, from the county, from down this way, wherever it is, with 3,000 to 4,000 school students, we bus in to the museum. We pay for it. We bring them to the museum. We give them a full day there with food, give them tours, give them activities in the museums, give them tours of campus. For most of these kids, it's the first time they've ever been in a museum in their life. And we want to kind of demystify art, demystify museums, not make this the place for the elite. This is for only certain people. Make this a place for anybody. As you say, it's free. So if you haven't been to the Colby Museum, you've got to make your way there. It really is an extraordinary collection, and it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, it's spectacular. Questions?
Morning, David. Mike Vale, Colby 85. Good to see you. Really fascinated with the work you're doing in Waterville. You and I have had some conversation, the buildings, the discussion you had today. When I was there, it was, and as you've described, a difficult relationship between the college up on the hill and the kind of mill town down at the river. And as you kind of begun the work with the leadership and with the buildings and some of the infrastructure you talked about, the property values, that's all terrific. What additional work do you have in terms of the relationship with the town and the kind of the middle class relationship with Colby, and is it vastly different now than it was back then? And just kind of think about that town and school relationship, and we see it in some of the other schools here in Maine, and it feels different in some of those other towns. And where are we at, and what additional work do you think is needed there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to tell you, we only shop at Hannaford first, just so.
Everyone does here.
Right?
That's
the only.
That's another like a boss requirement.
It's the only.
Yeah.
It's a great question. So it's not perfect for sure, and we're working hard on that because there's this sort of sense, and this has been exacerbated by the kind of the college on the hill and people in the town, and what is that like? This kind of sense of these privileged, the sort of privileged kids at Colby that we can't, we don't have a connection with them. One of the reasons it was so important to me to build that residential building downtown and have 200 students there, because I knew that once folks in town got to really engage with our students and our students really engage with them, they would actually find so much more in common than they ever thought in all of this, and it would start to break down so many of those barriers. Now, I will say that some of our students sort of parking in parking lots downtown are driving people absolutely nuts. So we've got to get over that piece. But the kind of connection with people that just is really a human connection, that's really starting to change in kind of fundamental ways right now, where I hear more people ever saying, these students are amazing, and our students saying, you can't believe the people I've been meeting in Waterville and what that's like. So much of it is just kind of creating opportunities for that kind of real exchange where people are with one another in different kinds of environments. And that's breaking down a lot of these things. But that said, when you look at all kind of national polls and the way that people think about colleges and universities right now, these were the most admired institutions in the country, right? Our colleges and universities. And that's really changing right now. There's a lot of sense of are these places really for me? Are they available to me? Are these places kind of liberal incubators? They're not places for political diversity. So there's a lot of discussions going on like that around campuses, including on our own campus right now, to make sure that we're really a place that really is open to ideas and to people from all backgrounds, from different beliefs, and making sure that we're that kind of a place. But every time you start to change that and you live in your bubble, it really does separate you from your community in really important and troubling ways.
Great question. Any other questions that we have this morning?
You've been in higher ed for many years, and you've been at Colby now since for a few years, and you've seen many incoming classes and student populations change over time. So now, with the class you have coming in 2019, if you could, would you alter the way kids are or classes are? Are there ways in which you think that classes could be structured differently, perhaps in terms of their makeup or in terms of what the kids are like?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, we've actually, so I do, and we've been working hard at actually kind of changing it. I think that Colby's been a great place for a long time, but it hasn't been nearly as diverse along lots of different important measures as it could have been. That's true socioeconomically. I'll tell you this, one statistic on this that I think is pretty powerful from the group that we just admitted in the early decision part of our class, which about half the class comes in through the early decision part of the application. 25% of the students in that pool were Pell eligible, so meaning, low income. That's a quarter of that class coming in. That's, it was about 7% a few years ago, to put that in some context. So that to me is a really fundamental change. 36% of the students in the early decision class, and this, by the way, tends to be the most the early decision group tends to be from the most highly resourced backgrounds. So 25% coming in Pell eligible, 36% students of color who are coming from all over the country. Colby is changing from where students are coming from, what their backgrounds are like, our kind of openness to the full diversity of backgrounds and experiences. So we're really starting to see that, and it's deliberate, and it's important for us to get there and to really start looking like the world in kind of critical ways. So I'm encouraged by what we're able to see on that, and we're moving very quickly on it relative to what other places have been able to do.
Great question.
Chad Higgins, class of 97. You touched upon a couple of the ways that the college is engaging downtown, and then one of the other ways that the college is inviting people to campus in the museum. I wanted to talk about, or give you the opportunity to talk about a couple of the other ways that you're inviting people to come to campus. I hear there's a big new building being built near Johnson Pond, and then I hear we're going to lose a parking lot to another kind of building, and I just wanted to hear what you had to say about those
Nice
new
tee-up.
construction.
Nice
Right?
tee-up. Yeah.
Chad's the president of the Alumni Council, so you got to throw that softball. Thank you, Chad, for that. Yeah, we are. We actually, we're building an incredible athletic center on our campus. So, our first athletic center began in the doors opened for the hockey rink in 1955, thanks to the first big philanthropic gift that Herald ever made was to this hockey arena. And the rest of our facility was kind of finished off by about 1968, and it's now outdated. The track is the wrong size, the pool is the wrong size. So we're building this incredible athletic center, but we did it from the very beginning, thinking about our community, not just the Colby community, but Maine, Waterville, the broader community. How could we be a place that hosts great athletic events and helps students train and be in these incredible environments? So we're building, for example, the first Olympic-sized pool in the state of Maine that's also a Murtha pool. So if anybody's swimmers in the room, a Murtha pool is what you use for the Olympics and for all international meets. It's the only Murtha pool that is in this part of the country. The next closest one is down, I think, at either Florida State or the University of Florida. These are very fast pools. So you can imagine having swimming competitions from all over New England and beyond coming to Colby for students and others to be able to use that, young children, everybody to be in this fantastic facility. So everything that we've done in that facility was designed to be able to support local economic development, students, children, families from across the region to be able to come to Colby. It will also be, the single best athletic facility of its kind for any college like ours in the country. So that we're really excited about that, because students' health and wellness is so important to students, in addition to the kind of athletic competitions, that being a place that supports that's important. But we talked about the museum, but the arts are a really critical component of our strategic plan overall. And we're now building a Center for Arts and Innovation, a kind of performing arts center that's really innovative in its design, but also in its program, and that helps to kind of develop kind of creative thought across all disciplines, so that when students graduate from Colby, I want people to know when they come through, these are going to be the people who are thinking innovatively all the time. They've been trained differently from students at other schools. So the Center for Arts and Innovation is going to go sort of across right from my house, so I can't wait for that to go up, because right now it's a parking lot, and it will be just an exquisite building that Bill Ron, an architect out of Boston, who designed Seijiazawa Hall at Tanglewood, if any of you have been out there, just an unbelievable concert hall, is doing this building for us. So we're really excited about that too, and making arts just such a central part of our signature at Colby.
That's wonderful. Question down front.
I'm Hope Bramhall. I am a member of the first class to enter Colby on the new campus. And mother of two daughters and two granddaughters. But my concern is and for years I have been doing alumni interviews. And this year, of course, it's unbelievable. And so I have just interviewed 3 of the most amazing students that I've ever interviewed in my life. And it breaks my heart to think that they want to go to Colby so badly, and they have the most unbelievable academics. But beyond that, it's their involvement in the communities and the volunteer work that absolutely blow my mind. And I mean, these are students that ought to be at Colby, yes. My concern is that how many of these kids are going to be left behind?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you, Hope. There's a real global competition for these spots at America's great colleges and universities. So there's a really interesting shift going on in our colleges. So there are many liberal arts colleges, many universities that are struggling to be able to fill their class. Terrific places, too, that are struggling to fill their class. And then there's a few handful of places that are like Colby right now that have an extraordinary list of students who are applying to get in. It's obviously much better to be in that group than the one that's struggling to be able to really fill your class, because there are more closures of colleges and universities happening right now than ever in our history, right? So that's what's going on in the world. And so for us, having the demand never been higher for Colby is really important. But it does create this tough challenge where you've got more students you'd love to have. And this is, for me, why we're also growing the Colby overall, because we want to be able to take these students. They're going to do so much for us. So we were expanding the size of the class, and we're expanding overall the student body at Colby. So we've gone from, it was 1850, 2000, 2200, and I just think that there's a lot more room there over time for us to be able to grow, because as long as the demand is high, we have land, thanks to the good people of Waterville. We've got 740 acres of land. We can be able to keep growing over time, as long as we can keep the kind of intimacy and the kind of what's so important about Colby, that sort of sense of connection and community that's there, the deep connection that students have to their faculty members. We don't want to lose any of that. But I also want to be able to create some more space in the class so that we can take those great students.
Well, I thank you, President Greene,
Thank you.
Thank you for all the incredible work you're doing in Waterville. Thank you to everyone for attending, and make it out to the Colby Museum to see the 2 new Rembrandts is very, very impressive. So have a great weekend, everyone.